Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the hidden meanings behind all the financial jargon. And let's just say today's filing from IDEXX Laboratories, Inc. is a doozy packed with enough numbers to make your head spin, but we'll unwrap it all for you. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty of IDEXX's 2025 annual report, if decoding complex financial documents and getting straight answers is your jam, make sure you are subscribed. And hey, we've built a really cool community on Discord, linked in the description below, where you can chat with us and other corporate finance enthusiasts. Alright, so IDEXX Laboratories, they're a big player in veterinary diagnostics and services, and their latest annual report gives us a peek into how they did in 2025. It is a comprehensive look covering everything from business operations to financial health and all the risks they're managing. Now, this report is for the whole year ending the 31st of December 2025. Think of it as a yearly checkup for the company, summarizing all the important stuff that happened. Their stated purpose is pretty noble: to enhance the health and well-being of pets, people, and livestock. That sounds good, but let's see if the numbers back it up. Digging into the financials, we see a huge chunk of their business comes from their companion animal group, or CAG. They brought in over $3.4 billion in recurring revenue just from diagnostics alone. That is a massive number, and it tells us that vets are consistently buying their diagnostic products and services. Looking at the income statement for 2025, their total revenue hit a cool $4.3 billion. That is up from $3.9 billion in 2024, a solid 10.4% increase. That is fantastic growth, especially when you consider the challenges many businesses faced. Their gross profit, which is what is left after they pay for the costs directly tied to making their products and services, was about $2.66 billion. That is a 11.8% jump from the previous year, and their gross profit margin at 61.8% is quite healthy, meaning they're keeping a good chunk of each dollar they earn. But what really matters is the bottom line for operations. Their income from operations, showing how much they earned from their core business before interest and taxes, was over $1.36 billion. That is a significant 20.5% increase compared to 2024. This tells us their core business is not only growing but becoming more profitable. Now, the company emphasizes how they've managed supply chain issues, which have been a headache for many companies. They're saying they've built a strong enough system to handle these challenges, keeping product availability high. This proactive approach seems to be paying off. However, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. They do mention a big risk: their dependence on third-party suppliers. If those suppliers stumble, IDEXX's ability to sell products and deliver services could be seriously impacted. That is a critical vulnerability to watch. They lay out a whole section on risks, which is standard for these reports. But some stand out. The companion animal healthcare industry is highly competitive, they say, and they're counting on innovation and successful strategies to keep growing. They're investing heavily in new products, software, and even artificial intelligence to stay ahead. Their strategy hinges on continuous innovation. Think of it like a race, and they absolutely have to keep inventing and improving their products and services to outrun the competition. They're also heavily relying on patents and licenses, but worry about those expiring and opening the door for rivals. And then there is the ever-present threat of cybersecurity, with so much of their business relying on its systems and cloud-based solutions. Any breach could be a major disaster. They've got a program to manage these risks, but acknowledge that the danger is real and evolving. Data privacy is another growing concern. As they collect and use a lot of customer and pet owner data, they have to navigate a complex web of global privacy laws. A misstep here could seriously damage their reputation. A really interesting point is how the veterinary industry itself is consolidating. More hospitals are owned by large corporations, and buying groups are becoming more common. This gives these larger entities more power to negotiate prices, which could squeeze IDEXX's profit margins. They've seen this trend impact their business before. Now let's look at their balance sheet, which is like a snapshot of their financial health at a specific moment. As of the 31st of December 2025, their total assets were about $3.35 billion. That is a slight increase from the previous year. On the other side of the ledger, their total liabilities were around $1.75 billion. This means they owe more than they own by a significant margin, but that is not necessarily a bad thing for a growing company that uses debt to fuel its expansion. Looking at stockholders' equity, their additional paid-in capital is over $1.8 billion, which is a big chunk, showing how much investors have put into the company over time. And their retained earnings, that is the accumulated profit they've kept in the business over the years, are a whopping $6.39 billion. That is a strong indicator of consistent profitability. When we look at the income statement, their net income for 2025 was over $1.05 billion. That is a solid 19.3% increase from 2024, showing they're becoming more profitable year after year. And their diluted earnings per share a key metric for investors, came in at a strong $13.08, also up from the previous year. This means they're generating more profit for each share of stock. They do have debt, and they acknowledge that their ability to pay it back depends on future performance and factors outside their control. They've got a credit facility and senior notes to manage, and while they seem to be in compliance with covenants, this is always a point to keep an eye on. Overall, IDEXX Laboratories seems to be on a solid growth trajectory, driven by its strong position in the companion animal market and a focus on innovation. They're managing their risks, though the ongoing dependency on suppliers and the evolving landscape of cybersecurity and privacy are definite areas to watch. Their financials show robust growth and profitability, which is very encouraging. It looks like they're doing a good job of turning their purpose into profitable outcomes, at least on paper. That is our deep dive into IDEXX's 2025 annual report. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments if this analysis was valuable. Hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more corporate breakdowns. And don't forget to join our Discord community linked in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.